before we even get the first one out of the way. So, all right. Well, so welcome to the long-awaited and anticipated the Stone Identity panel. And we tried to schedule this a couple times before, and Victoria couldn't make it. And a couple people couldn't make. Mayor, can I just first say that Mayor Melton, we wish speedy recovery and lots of strength to come back to one piece again. And I'm just tickled that they're still here, so I can give them a hard time. So Mayor was supposed to join us today for the panelists. And those of you who didn't know, Mayor suffered a stroke, but is okay, and still here. We kind of hitting that age, aren't we? we're all hitting that age where we're starting to see each other's mortality. So, all right. So for those who are not familiar, who may have gotten a hold of the link, I'll do some. I'm going to introduce myself, and then I thought I would have each of y'all introduce yourself, how you identify, maybe how long you've been stone identified, and then I'm going to open it up for a discussion from there. So my name is Daywalker, host and admin since 2009 to the Butch Femme main group on Facebook and its affiliates. I identify as Agender, Butch, hashtag bearded Butch, and my wife is not with us today. She's resting away, but I'm sure if she were here, you'd all know it. So, I want to go ahead and on my screen is going to be different. So Marti,
yeah,
introduce yourself.
Oh, hi, I'm Marti. I am Stone Butch, old fashioned, old school. I do a YouTube channel called Stone's Echo. It's for and about Stone Femmes and Stone Butches. I took a long sabbatical over the last year because I had some stuff going on. I did another video a couple weeks ago. I'm getting ready to do another one, and I'm going to start doing them more on a regular basis again. So, other than that, I would love it if you came and checked it out and, gave me a thumbs up, because for some reason that's what YouTube likes, is a thumbs up. So that's it. Thank you so much for inviting me. And this is Charlie. You can't see him. Jump down. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Victoria?
Victoria Darling. I write books under Victoria Ann Darling up on Amazon. Mostly stone focused. 3 are stone focused, and 1 is a children's book. It's racially ambiguous, gender ambiguous exploration of a preteen exploring pronouns and gender identity in a really high self-esteem way. So that's the children's book. I'm working on another book right now, Soul and Sway, the history and romance of stone sexuality. And I'm covering Stone Butch, Stone Femme, Stone Non-Binary, and Stone Stud, and a few flavors outside that box. But that should be coming out later this month. But I have 400 pages of quotes and discussion points, and that's not counting the content that I'm writing. So I'm trying to whittle it down, and it may end up being 2 or 3 novels, which will extend it a couple of weeks. So I'm trying not to extend it again, but that's what I'm doing. I've been out. I started conversations with myself about being stone in the mid-90s, maybe with a couple of lovers. We talked about it, but I didn't start going public with it, like with meeting new people and saying, hi, I'm a stone femme, until the early 2000s. So been out about 20 years.
Right on. All right. Leann?
Yeah, I'm Leann. I identify as a stone femme in terms of pronouns. I use she, her. It's a funny topic when we start talking about how do you identify, because in some regard, I don't always feel, I feel like femme is my identity, the way some people would say woman or man or they, or, any of these other flavors that we've got.
As a gender, yeah.
Yeah, right. It's a very complex topic these days. And super excited to be here and also kind of humbled. There's some really amazing folks who are far more eloquent than I am. So I'll just apologize in advance for my bumbling. In terms of identity, one of the things that I really like about this era is that the youngs, as I call them, because I'm in my early 50s, they have really mastered the art of sharing information on the web. And there's something floating out there called the CompHet Master Document, which is compulsory heterosexuality. Being stone femme is confusing. I knew I was not straight as far back as the mid 80s. What I didn't have language for or anything around me to be able to talk about was stone femme dynamics and stone butch. It just didn't exist. I had lots of people telling me, no, you're actually straight. If you're that interested in what you're talking about, you're straight, which get enough people saying that, it can be a long time. So probably in my 40s was probably the first time I started hearing other ways of talking about identifying as a lesbian. Newsflash, I'm not fully identified as a lesbian, in part because I am not interested in all women. I'm interested in something very specific, which is non-assigned male at birth masculinity. And that's my sweet spot. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an insight. And that's me.
All right. Norma.
Hi, everyone. My name is Norma Lily. I am all the way in the Western Cape in South Africa. It's 8 p.m. here. Well, after 8, we started at 8 p.m. So I'm glad to be here in this space with similar-minded and similar identified folks. I probably am the youngest of the panel, or one of the youngest. I am only 27 years old. I have been out. I've been out as not straight. I think I knew from I think I was about 15 when I knew, but went through a whole lot of series of self-discovery and confirming, and I only came out officially about 7 years ago. And the Butch Femme original group was my biggest part of like aha moment. And in there I met people like Victoria as well that shared about being stone, and then there were groups that developed, and I got to be a part of that, and I got a massive I mean, from my part of the world, it's not something that I'd heard of. It's not something that's even talked about. You just know that, okay, you're either gay or you're lesbian. And so as a young, evolving woman, it was amazing for me to find my identity in the spaces that you guys have created. My pronouns are she and her. I identify as a stone, or sometimes say high femme. I am the girliest as it goes, and I'm extremely attracted to masculinity. Thank you.
Daywalker.
You cut off. Can't hear you.
Oh, for hell's sake. Okay.
There you go.
I'm sorry. There was a gang of motorcycles going by in the freeways over here, and I thought that was walking right over Norma all the way in South Africa. So, all right. Sugar. Introduction.
You're cut off too.
You're muted.
Okay, better?
Right on.
Okay, all right. So my name is Sugar Portillo. I've been around for a really long time. I think I knew that I was different when I was younger, but it didn't make any sense at all until I was 20 and I came out. And that was when I discovered my stone butch attraction, or my attraction to stone butches. And I go by, I'm going to float around here a little bit, sorry. I go by she, her, and hers, and ma'am, and babe, and you know, those, those kind of pronouns. And you know what, I've been around since the .com. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna preface that with, this is not a, I'm not trying to advertise or anything. I'm just saying I've been around that long. I came out at 20. I went back in. I came out at 40. And that's when I found out what a stone femme was. And throughout my life, you know, I was partnered with females, but I didn't know what the difference was between a female and a masculine of center or a stone or anything like that until I discovered this glossary of terms. And it showed me that there was nothing wrong with me. I wasn't this selfish lesbian that everybody said I was, you know. I wasn't this, I was a stone femme. And I, you know, I needed to partner with a stone butch, someone who understood my boundaries, someone who knew that I understood their boundaries. And so from there, you know, I kind of started, I don't want to use the word qualifying, but I can't think of anything else, where I would have these conversations with anyone who was interested in me. You know, how do you identify? Do you understand what a stone femme is? You know, etc. Of course, they'd all say yes. And then, and I'd end up with something different. But now, right now, I'm taking some time for me, just to kind of figure out and strengthen my person. My identity is a stone femme, but it's also a transensual, alpha, fierce, female stone femme. And then somewhere in there, and if you're worthy of it, switch, right? Because I'm a baby girl, and I'm also, I can also be very dominating. So, so I got like all these different things, but everything, all of it is under the stone femme umbrella, the stone femme identity. And so that's, I know that's a lot. I don't know.
That's good though, that you're layered, you know?
Okay. Yeah, yeah. At this age, yeah, you better believe I'm layered.
Yeah.
I'm 58 years old.
Congratulations, I'm not quite there yet. You're
Thank
older.
you.
Huh?
That's
Vanessa, Vanessa Steward. Unmute and introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Vanessa, and I've been around since the .com version as well. I'm an artist, amateur stand-up comedian, and I won't say I'm stone femme anymore, but I do date stone femme, or I mean stone butch women, and I have dated a few TMs, but I do write about the identities, and I identify as a sex positive freak, but I definitely do not pack at any time. So that's my hard limit. So that's me, and I'm 53.
Right on. Elise.
Hi, everybody. My name is Elise, and my pronouns are she and her. I identify as stone femme and I femme. I never.
Uh-oh, she froze.
I froze. Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Hope that I'm back on. Okay, good. I knew that I didn't fit in, and I remember when I was a teenager asking my early teen, probably around 13. I asked my mom what it meant to be gay and lesbian, and she told me the illness of the person had an illness, and it was a punishment. Anyway, as I grew older, I should have known that I was gay, but I didn't. I remember when I finally did
Elise,
figure it out.
you're
One of my, I give that to my best girlfriend.
Elise, you might have to park or something because you're reverb. You're all reverb right now. So, well, so yeah, nobody can hear you because your phone might be too far away or you're driving through a tunnel.
And she's like, "Oh, we knew that already."
Is she still? She's still talking. Huh?
I'm
Elise,
it's because
your phone's not picking up your sound quality. It sounds like you're garbling a lot. Oh look, you must have just driven out of a tunnel or something. Because now your screen just unsnapped, so now we can see you moving.
Can you hear me now, though? Are we
Yes,
better?
we're a little better.
Okay, phew. Okay, sorry about that. I was driving through the Tuxedo Mountain.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay, so I'll start again. So I'm not sure how much you heard, but my mother had told me when I was an early teen, when I asked her about being gay and lesbian, she told me it was an illness and a punishment from God. Anyway, when I finally figured out that I wasn't straight, and I told one of my friends about it, I first come out as bisexual, and when I told one of my, she said, she was one of my best girlfriends at the time. She's like, "Are you?" And it was like mind blowing for me figuring out who I was, and less shameful. Once I had language, I started to feel less shame about things. It took a really long time to find language for me. The words gave me power, because before I had words and language, and before I knew there were other people like me, I was told I was bad for what I liked. I remember one instance, then I'll stop, where I had been pregnant with my first son through donor insemination, and my wife at the time had come home and she had gone onto the computer, and she questioned me after, because I had been looking at pornography that was not that was not fem, and it made her very concerned. She's like, "Are you straight?" And I felt so much shame. And I'm like, "No, I don't want to be with a man ever. I do not want to be with a cisgender man ever, ever, ever." And I felt crushed about who I was, and I thought maybe it's just the hormones of pregnancy, but it wasn't. It was that I needed to find that part of me, and I needed language for it, and I needed not to be ashamed about it. And it was a very, very difficult time. And once I found language, life was so much easier. So I am, wherever I am, I feel like I need to be out. And it's important to me to say, like, when I go into different situations, I want people to know I am Stone Femme. Thank you for including me in the panel.
All right. Okay. Sharmini, you get to unmute and introduce yourself. Oh, you're muted. Go ahead and unmute. Oh, am I muted? Did I mute?
No. Okay now?
Okay. Oh, there you go. All right. Yes. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Hi, Sharmini. It's very nice to meet you.
I know I've been killing you on the site for a long time.
And I know that you always miss our live stuff because you're also out of off the continent. You're yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, I never figured out how to do the time zone thingy, the changey. But I have an American friend here in Brussels. I'm from Brussels, Belgium. And I asked her today, like, what the hell time is this meeting? And she gave me the time. I'm femme. I have no clue about numbers. But it's so nice to meet you guys. Oh my God, like a Facebook group coming to life is amazing.
Isn't that something? And if I did it right, it should be actually live streaming in the group right now, this whole thing. So that was a cool feature to add today.
Yeah, I'm just really upset that your wife is not here because you're really cool, but your wife is cooler.
I know. She's the Peter to my Pat, you know. So
Well, anyway, I'm from Malaysia. I'm Sri Lankan, born and bred in Malaysia, and I've been living in Brussels, Belgium for 20 over years. I don't know why. Don't ask me. I married a man.
Well, I mean,
I had to. My mom forced me. You don't know how it is in Malaysia. Your mom beats you up. So you do whatever they ask you to do. So she told me, I remember when I was 28 years old, she said, you get married by the end of this year or you move out. Okay, for all of you, that's easy because you know how to take care of yourself. But I didn't because I had maids. I had 3 maids in the house all the time. So I did not know how to wash my clothes or cook my food or anything. So I was like, okay, the easier option would be get married. And I like this white boy. He was cute. And I still love him. I mean, we're good friends. Like I have no qualms with my exes, so it's fine. But now I got divorced. I was married like 15 years. I got divorced. I have my girlfriend here who is Finnish, but because she's Finnish, she doesn't. Can you come and say hello? Seriously, like people are on screen. Can you come here and say hello?
Look at Norma's poking at her partner.
She's putting her cap on. Hold on, she's putting her cap
on. All right.
Hello.
Hello. It's very nice to meet you.
There she is. It's my Daiki one.
Excellent.
So we've been together for 6 years.
6 years? That's good.
Yeah, me neither. So I will just go be and finish and go.
No, it's so funny because the Finnish people are very quiet people, and I'm Asian, so I'm very loud. But well, we lasted 6 years, so something works.
Okay. I've got a comedian friend.
Bye.
I've got a comedian friend named Dilo who's Sri Lankan. And they half the routine that they do up on stage as a comedian is about their family and their mom. So,
oh my God, we have to do that. We have to do that because the 2 of us. I woke up this morning and this little dyke of mine, her feet are sticking out of the blanket and she has 1 sock on and 1 foot has no sock. And I woke up to go to the toilet at 6 a.m. and there's 1 foot with a sock and 1 foot with no sock. And I'm like, yeah. I've
got a theory about the disappearing socks and the millions of them throughout the world I'll go into one day. It's the same theory as disappearing ink. So,
but anyway, I don't want to like take over the talk, but yeah, very interested to hear what all of you are saying. And hi, nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you. All right, I think okay. Well, there we are with our introduction rounds. You know, we had done a panel thread, an entire thread, almost 2 years ago, in the main group, and on Stone Identity, because for some reason at the time we were having a lot of people either interacting on the feed or putting posts onto the feed asking about Stone Identity, and I had noticed that there was a lot of incorrect answers being given, you know, and we watch those things on the feed because, you know, people go there to get you know, some knowledge that we share, and it's important that what goes across that feed is accurate. I saw somebody type into somebody else, you know, they were being helpful. Right below it, they said, you know, oh, Stone is the opposite of a soft butch, you know. So, you know, this was, you know, it was real quick to learn how many people thought they knew and didn't. And then on top of that, you could say in one sentence, Stone identity has to do with boundaries during intimacy. That doesn't even cover it. It is so intricate and varied that it's probably one of the more unique identities within our community, so that was one of the reasons why I wanted to continue to have panels, and especially on Stone identity, because we want to get rid of some of the myths and misconceptions and misinformation out there. One of the most common myths that I know of was and they come up a lot, was that Stone Femmes are Stone Femme because they partner with a Stone Butch. And we'll just throw that out the window right away, because that's not at all what Stone Femme means to a lot of folks, such as Elise and I think Sugar, and probably, so y'all have your own sets of boundaries during for intimacy, and you're not a Stone Femme because as a result of partnering with a Stone Butch. And Marty, I apologize. We were supposed to have Mare here and JD as well, and you're sitting up there with like one of the only MOC folks on the panel.
I'm not complaining. I'm just basking in it. I'm good.
But you hold your own. You hold your own. When we held that panel, there was a lot of anxieties from the panelists in the block message we were having before it began, because it was going to open up onto the feed, and that would put everybody in the firing line right there for thousands of people to come and ask questions, tap you on the shoulder, and there was some pause and some anxieties, and so I want to make sure that and like I think last time I covered towards the end aftercare, support each other in the aftercare thing, because it matters. If this panel at all gives rise to anxieties, I think because it is separated from the attendees on screen, there's less anxieties involved as opposed to being thrown onto a thread in the middle of a feed of 20,000 people. So, but I just wanted to mention that it matters. And what with the things that I was linked to from Victoria this week from the TikTok, I can understand apprehension in discussing your identity. But I can't thank you guys enough for coming here to do so. I wanted to, I'm old fashioned, I write stuff down. I wanted to start off with just a couple of simple, easy things. And that is, what are some of the terms that are considered to be offensive and off color to most Stone folks, past and present? I think because things have evolved, language evolves, and things have changed. Dyke was a no-no for everybody, and now it's a yes for lots of folks, but still no for others. So every 20 years or so, we seem to have a turnover. So, whoever would like to join in, tell me what you remember being a derogatory term for your identity that may have come to fruition and be embraced now, or what are today's? What's considered to be an offensive thing? How do you not like to be referred to?
Can I ask first, what is a Stone Femme? Because I'm from Asia, we don't have that.
That's going to come out. That's going to come out, Ashley. That's about 3 questions down.
If it's okay, I have an appointment that ended up getting moved up. Is that me going in and out?
That was you. You were going in and out.
Can you?
You're good now. Yeah, you're
okay.
yeah. You're good.
So I I had an appointment that they moved me up, so unfortunately I'm gonna hopefully I'll be able to come back and you guys will still be on. So for me, I would say the pillow princess would be a derogatory term for me, not based on what a pillow princess actually is, but the connotation when people say it. When people say it, they're not saying it as it's a good thing. They're saying it as though with
people think we don't do anything if
with
we're
the meaning of you're lazy and
so.
you don't want to give to your partner. And am I going?
You had a little bit. They say it as though there's no reciprocation, like you just lay there, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They say that it's said and meant in a derogatory manner. But I'd like to touch on one little thing before I pass on to the next person. I find it derogatory when I'm out with anybody who's butch. When people, and I'm not sure if this falls into the same framework of the question, but it might, because that was something that came up while the question was being posed. I get really upset when people say, "How are you ladies doing?" And it gets under my skin, and I have to not allow it to bother me, right? Because I don't want the butches who are at the table to feel called out or to feel like to feel any type of way about it. Worse, because I get upset. So that's just something that I find to be really it's difficult for me when I'm out with anyone who's masculine of center and anybody walk over to us and say ladies. So those are things that I find derogatory. I find the pillow princess, and I find anybody referring to someone who is masculine of center as a girl or a lady. That really bothers me.
One thought I have on this, because I have some young adults in my household, and so out of self-defense, I've had to get very familiar with things like TikTok and other places, and I find myself listening to some of the discussions that are like completely off base, and it's always the stone femme is super selfish. You're just selfish, or you're actually straight, one or the other. But on this, once they start talking about stone butches, and this is a funny thing, I think every femme here is going to get really in defense of stone butches. But there's this discussion as if they need to be changed, they need to be altered, they need to become interested in something else, and so the goal is to melt the ice or melt the stone. And basically it's they're talking about non-consensual betrayal of boundaries, which I think that's the thing that is the most distressing to hear about, but it's on both sides. And it's not just out there in the straight community, it's actually in our community here that this struggle comes up. That's
where I've heard it.
Stone butch, you're broken. If you're a stone femme, you're selfish. It's like, really? So yeah, those are my pet peeves.
Yeah, so I want to touch on a couple
I have to agree
of
with that one. Yes, sugar, yes.
Yeah, I want to pop in here real quick before I forget, because I'm 58, so I forget stuff. Okay, so number one is I have taken the word queer and the word queen, pillow queen, and tried to give it a more powerful resonance, to who I am. I don't like for people to peg me into a certain place. I dealt with the selfish, I dealt with the lazy, I dealt with the you don't do anything, and stuff, and and I feel like I've always been like this, where I've had to share the information that I know at that time to educate the ignorant around me, because it's important to me. Because if I at least share this with one person, perhaps, they might open up their mind and be a little more enlightened about who we are. Because I am, I said earlier, a switch, I kind of.
She went away.
Oh, we lost your volume.
I want to make a comment about the switch identity here. I also enjoy the BDSM, and I don't think that being a switch is offensive at all.
No, I don't either. I don't either. I'm just saying that, you know, that's how I try to illuminate somebody else's understanding. And then if they don't get it, well, then they just don't get it. Go look it up, you know? The other thing I was going to say was, you know, Elise, when you were talking about when you're out with a masculine of center and, you know, they address you as ladies. I've had that happen to me. And here recently, like maybe in the last year or two, I've decided that it's not my responsibility to correct someone, because I feel like that person who is being misgendered or misidentified, you know, has a responsibility for himself to do that. Because I'm not saying that I wouldn't, I did it.
Just lost you again.
We're losing your volume in and out, Sugar. Wait, Sugar, we lost you. We lost your sound. And at least, yes, I saw that. You just typed in that you had to go, but you should be. You'll maybe be back. Yes.
I will try my best as long as I'm. Yeah, the appointment was not supposed to be until an hour from now, but they called me. They had to be moved up.
You tell them I had dibs on you today.
Okay.
So, all right.
Okay,
All right.
I'll be back.
Okay, and then Sugar, we lost you for the last few sentences, and I know Victoria, you've got your hand up as well, so I'm going to switch it over to you as when Sugar's done.
Okay, all I wanted to say was that I don't feel like it's my responsibility anymore to, you know, to identify the other person that I'm with under his, you know, correct pronouns or identification, simply because I've done a lot of work for myself, you know, throughout, and I feel like I'm empowered enough to, you know, to be me, to be on the arm of this person, you know, and stuff. So to me, it's like, hey, you know, now you stand up for you. I'm right here. I'll be right there with you, but you also need to, you know, do your thing. Otherwise, how do they grow? We continue to enable our butches.
Right.
Okay, now I'm done. Random.
Okay. Victoria. Vanessa, can you mute because your dog is taking the stage?
Yes. Sorry. How do I get there? Oh my goodness! Hang on. What was that?
It's a big dog.
I'm sorry, guys. Yeah. And I just rescued one that I've been talking about in the group, and I don't know how to do this yet. Sorry.
Oh, you did your video. It should be now turn your video back on and get your microphone off.
Okay.
If you manage the video, it's just to the lower left.
Okay,
yeah.
sorry. Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Sorry. Okay, where do I?
Let me see.
Close that.
Panelists. I think I can.
I'm sorry.
Oh, here. Wait. I think I can do it from here, can't I? Let me see. There you are.
You should be able to.
Oh, okay. Okay, you're muted. Okay, good. All right, Victoria.
Am I unmuted? Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. As far as terms that are offensive, the main one that has been really long-standing is melting the stone. If anybody sets out a boundary, usually it's hard won. And so anybody that responds to a boundary, whether it's responding to a Stone Butch's boundary or a Stone Non-Binary's boundary or a Stone Femme's boundary, anybody that responds to that with an excitement to get past it is putting off predatory energy. So the more appropriate thing is not to judge where their boundary is or why it's there. It's to ask more questions and to say, is that boundary one that is hard won for you and that's comfortable for you and that you want to keep? Rather than saying, oh, I'm going to help them get past that. Or, oh, look at me when I did get past it. Like, I think it's really horrifying to us to think that we get with people and we find out later that they wanted us to get past our boundaries, that they were able to do the things that we said up front we didn't want to do. So I think that's a really important one just across the board in our community. There's a small place where stone can mean emotional stoneness, some emotional distance, and stone can be a physical boundary, or it can be both. And when somebody, like if I'm partnered to a stone butch and they are emotionally stone as well, like they need that a little emotional gravity, a little separation of church and state, so to speak. They might want to feel tough and invulnerable and as the provider, and to give them a space, a sanctuary in me that allows them to drop that guard without pursuing it, without pushing it, without demanding that they change. That can be a really sacred place. So there is some stories that are out there about stones where they, like a femme will say, he melted with me. That might not be a physical melting of the boundaries. It could be an emotional melting of, I feel safe, I can let my guard down. It doesn't mean that they want to be turtle upside down, belly up. It just means that they can relax some of their emotional guard. Not all stones have emotional guards, but just that's one term. Another term is role playing. I really, like, it's nails on chalkboard for somebody to say I'm role playing being straight. We are the furthest, we are actually the exact opposite of straight, because we want queer embodied in it. And I know that's a hard word for some people, so pick your own word to put in there. But if we were really straight, we would be dating men. That's just not what we're attracted to, for most of us anyway. And even if stone butches or stone masculine of center dates a heterosexual woman, what they're usually trying to do is get someone that's okay with their boundaries. And it's sometimes easier for a straight woman to respect their boundaries than it is for a lesbian who's used to having lesbian sex. I mean, honestly, to the wrong partner, we do show up as selfish. Stone femmes do show up as selfish and non-reciprocal. But that's because it's a wrong pairing. When we're with the right pairing, they're like excited and they feel joyous and they feel grateful that we have the boundaries that complement theirs. So I think that's an important distinction.
Excellent. All right, thank you, Victoria. And Marti?
Yes, thank you. You know, when I first came out as, and I never called myself lesbian because I never liked it. I don't like that word. It's like moist. I don't like that word either. So, but 127 years ago, when I first came out, I was offended being called gay or queer or lesbian, anything, because I was so scared. I was so scared that my family would find out. And if you knew my family, like I know my family, you'd have been scared for me. And as time went on and I got more comfortable with myself and I found the .com and I found the hot tub in the .com, you know, the chat room where everybody, and there were a lot of people whose names, especially stone butches who had stone in their name on the hot tub, and they began to talk about that, and I started listening, and it was like, oh my God, that makes sense. That makes so much sense to me, and I started learning about it then. Fast forward, you know, 100 years, and I was blessed to meet Victoria, and we developed a friendship, and I'm so grateful because Victoria became my mentor in me becoming, whether, you know, she may not use that as the term for it, but I do, for me becoming a stone butch, because I knew it was in there, but I didn't know how to pull it out of me. And the one thing that really bothered me back then that I thought I would need to do in order to change my identity was to cut this hair, because I I was afraid, because once again, my family, and by now my family knew that I was, you know, that I was gay, but you know, they had no idea even what just butch was, except that it was a derogatory term to call someone. And Victoria said, and I'll never forget it, she said to me, if not now, when? Meaning, you know, cutting my hair. And I had to think about that. And I thought about it long and hard, and I went and got.
You froze up. Did Marty freeze for everybody?
My haircut and
Oh, there you are. Okay. You froze up for about 15 seconds.
Okay, so yeah, my mom, when I got my hair cut, Vera, my mom, did not disappoint me, and now she's got dementia, and she'll still look at me and say, "Won't you please grow your hair out for me?" No, no. Guess what? No, guess what? I've gotten healthy. But you know, and it's not the haircut at all, but it's just, to me, that was such a pivotal moment in me becoming who I am, and it was thanks to a stone femme, you know, who is what I consider one of my best friends, and someone who I've really learned I can trust to talk about this stuff with. Nowadays, 99.9%, well, my real friends, real life friends, that I hang with, yeah, a bunch of women, a bunch of sober women. I'm in recovery, and you know, they'll walk, "Hey, ladies," and I'm like, "Oh, I've tried to tell them, I've tried to teach them, you know, I don't. That really kind of makes me feel icky when you say that."
Right.
And my one friend, she'll say, "Hey, ladies," and Marty, but you know, which is cool. But you know, I have to be okay with, you know, they're straight and they try to get it, but they really don't get it. So, I don't know. And then one other thing I wanted to talk about was this TikTok that I saw, and I talked about it in my last video on YouTube. But this woman, and I wrote down exactly what she had written on her TikTok, and she was blasting stone butches. And this is her exact wording: "Every stud who been a touch me not ain't know what she/they was doing anyway." And I was like,
It's like, wow, congratulations on working with the
on the
pronouns.
grammar, number one, you must be proud. Your mom must be proud of you. And her name is I Am Kendra Cox, by the way, if anyone would like to visit her. COX, which I found kind of funny, but but anyway, that it's, you know, I mean, if you don't know what you're talking about, shut the fuck up, you know? So,
It's
and that's
TikTok.
basically what I told her. So, but I did it. I tried to do it politely. Anyway, that's it. Thank you. Thank you for letting me.
All right. Okay. All right. Yeah, it was interesting what was brought up there was I actually had notes on this because I think that Vanessa had typed in that you know, how sexuality can evolve, and it does. Sexuality can evolve for some people over time. Some people just tuck away the notion of it completely. Some are given pause, you know, if they experience first time that they realize alternate desires or attractions have surfaced. The fluidity of sexuality and gender is natural within our species, but not all humans are actually wired to understand and embrace it. So I had a question I put down, which was, have any of you ever made a consensual adjustment to add or remove particulars from your boundaries to any small or significant degree, either for a partner or for yourself?
Oh, me.
Norma, you haven't said anything yet. Where'd you go?
Hi,
There
I'm
you
still
are.
here. Yes. I wouldn't say it was more of boundaries, or perhaps it does add up to that. But in my previous dating life, I found that there's a huge misconception in understanding boundaries in general. So as much as it's very hard already to be, you know, to have to explain being a lady, you know, and it becomes even harder to explain what my identity as a stone femme is. And you find that they take it as like,
Oh,
South Africa just bumped out. She'll be back. I expected that the folks that are not in the U.S. might actually have issues going in and out during the Zoom. I heard that that's a possibility. So, and see now expanding on that part of it, of the any kind of evolving, but more sticking with the boundaries. Which this is difficult because I remember the first time I read a conversation and had to witness stone butches being placed up as a challenge.
Yes.
And it was gross. It was, they wanted to break the stone, and there were a few femmes and they were having this conversation together, and you know, it was like they just like removed the entire human aspect of this person, and locker room talk. It was femme locker room talk, and it was awful. And so now, experiences with intimate encounters. How many times have you all had somebody actually disregard those boundaries, not just verbally, but actually physically try to disregard them? And would any of you categorize this as sexual assault?
certainly could be. Shit.
I wrote a pamphlet out for my social justice class at my university, and it's for Antioch University students. It's available, but about BDSM and the lesbian community being such a strong presence, and having been on the emotional side of the abuse, there were times that I feel like partners didn't know how to leave their dominant personality in the bedroom where it remains and is supposed to come out and play with you upon consent, and that there is such a difficult space between abuse and pushing a boundary. And unless somebody is aware of like what they're doing, if it's risk aware, consensual, or if it's safe, sane, and consensual, there isn't a lot of talk about abuse because people don't want to approach the subject, but we need to, because it alienates people who are interested, and it makes the people who are seeking help or unaware if they're being abused hide further. So it needs to be talked about more.
I'm glad you brought this up, Vanessa. If I may, I'm experiencing this in the last year or so, where if there's a, let's say for instance, I tend to look at talking to someone as making friends, getting to know them, you know, whereas some people, butches, stone butches, or they say that they're stone butches, and they automatically are very proprietary to me, right, with me. And then they try to shame me into thinking certain things or making it seem like they're my dom, where we've never even negotiated or talked about any kind of relationship in that manner. But all of a sudden their behaviors are such that they're just extreme. And then I'm the bad guy. I'm the bad guy because I don't do, you have to stand up for yourself. Correct, because I stand up for myself and I say, hey, this is not how this is going to go. And then they're like, well, I thought you were a stone femme and yada yada, and they try to shame me again. I'm like, this is over, this is done, we're done. You know, there have been one in particular who every time I said something would come back at me, well, not every time, but 3 times in 2 weeks, said, you know, you said this and it made me feel yucky, or I didn't like it, or, you know. And finally one day, you know, I'd been allowing him to just evolve so that I could really see who he was. And finally I said, you know, I don't really like how you said that to me. It makes me feel a certain way. And and he said, well, how come? And, or why are you telling me this? And I said, because you have no problem telling me when I maybe, say things that bother you. But when I tell you that you're bothering me one time, you're getting defensive. And so he didn't respond anymore. So I just cut that out. And that's only talking. That's in chat or, we have to also, know where the lines are. That's when I said earlier about, I'm sorry, my hair is everywhere, about defending these partners or these people that we're out with, these individuals who, they're identifying as masculine of center or stone or whatever. It is not my responsibility, to have them identified and addressed.
I have to disagree with you on this though, on this part, because it is absolutely each of our responsibility to know what we're doing before we do it. And if those rules change without consent, that's when you approach people like the elders in your community. I know for me specifically, I wanted to be a member of the White House from the gathering over in Nashville, Tennessee, and Tennessee Flame. And you had to come with references and you had to express yourself to moderators before you could even join a munch or a play party. And so it's really important that we each individually set our boundaries right up front. Basically, if you don't have those boundaries in place, you're opening yourself up for somebody who could be extremely abusive, and they get away with it by saying that this is their fetish and this is how they do this. You absolutely are responsible for who you play with, whether you know exactly how they're going to behave or not in the end. We can't all know that, but you have to take up for yourself to begin with, and you have to have trust before you play.
I would agree with you if it were in a BDSM context, but this is just a getting to know you phase. Just
then that's somebody that you red flag out of the window and you just go on. That's a no-go. Immediately cut that off.
Okay. So what my point was that I am seeing this more often, and as 58, a woman of 58 years old and a stone femme for many, many years, I consider myself an elder, and I consider the learning process that I've gone through as very important, not just to me, certainly it's particularly to me, but also to others who are coming up behind me, that we are responsible in, to share this information about protecting yourself, about not allowing certain things to occur under the guise of stone butch or masculine center or whatever. That's really important to the younger generation too, because I see a lot of sexual fluidity, which is cool, but with it comes some behaviors that also may or may not be okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know that there's a fair amount of toxic masculinity that falls into place with it as well. Misogyny, sexism, and it all comes out of a lot of the butch masculine of center folks that maybe didn't have the right examples for guidance on, how to express and share their masculinity, and to immediately always assume in any relationship that it means alpha, and that a femme is automatically a bottom, and a femme should be, getting my paper and getting my shoes for me and whatnot. And no, that has to be consensual as well. That's it doesn't work like that. I do notice that a lot of folks from the OS, old fashioned, old school dynamic, identify as stone as well, and so we have a couple of different layers there, but it's still, both of them insist on a particular consent with the partners. You're not going to find the magic, if you're not both holding a wand. Do you know what I mean? You can't just one be holding it and just point and shoot. It doesn't work like that. And unfortunately, the male of our species have, displayed a lot of buffoonish behavior and our MLC folks in this community that didn't really have a lot of elders from the community to provide guidance and mentorship. They looked to the male of our species for that, and that hasn't done them very well. It has really messed things up for quite a few of them, and they've had to undo a lot of work that they thought they had down pat. Sharmini, yes.
Hi. Okay, sorry, I'm totally lost. Because I don't understand what is Stone Butch and Stone Femme. I don't, because I'm in Asia,
Okay. See, yeah.
and in Asia we only have like, it's very easy. Like, it's just femme, dyke. Dyke is like the boyish girls, like my girlfriend, but not so not like the truck driver kind of thing. And that is
All right.
butch. So we have femme, dyke, butch. We have baby dyke. Baby dyke are like the young ones coming out.
Yeah.
So I really don't know. I'm so sorry. And
Stone is a particular identity that falls within our the Butch Femme community and possibly extends out. That has to do with somebody who has boundaries in their intimacy. They may not know penetration.
Because I have.
Or a Stone Femme may identify as Stone because she does not want to be masculinized or asked to strap whatsoever during her encounters. So she has her own boundaries within how she needs to feel during intimacy, and has some hard limits on where that and Stone Butches in general will have a no penetration boundary. Do not feminize their body. They don't want their body to be feminized during intimacy. That is a couple of the floating basics. But again, as you can hear, it's an identity that's very layered. But those are a couple of the basics for definitions for Stone identity.
Okay, but just how I understand it is like, I'm just femme and she's dyke.
Right.
And I know the butchers too. The butchers are like what we call like the truck driver, kind of like really very, very male, which is fine.
Masculine, masculinity. They display their masculinity with pride, and masculinity is not owned by the male of our species. It's an energy, and it's shared amongst all kinds of people who identify different.
Hey
just
guys,
like,
don't laugh at me. I'm Asian.
No, we're not laughing.
No, I'm not laughing at you.
We're not
laughing at you. Trust me.
It's actually I'd be interested to know in that part of the world what the Stone community. I'm sure there's a Stone community there. If it's referred to as Stone or something else, maybe.
No, I've never.
Victoria, do you have any idea if the terms are used throughout internationally for Stone universally?
In researching this book, it's the term Stone is typically only used within communities that have found a presence online that connects to certain parts of Australia, certain parts of the UK, and certainly the US. The language of Stone is very limited. But like even as far back, the TV show Gentleman Jack, I found research that says Ann Lister, in Ann Lister's journals, said, no, I will never be loved the way I love the women I love. Like, no, don't touch me, I do you. Like, she was very specific about all the things that make up a stone, but she never used the word stone. Like, that vernacular might not have been around then. But she described perfectly that she was a Stone Butch. So that was I have lots of research on Butch and Femme identities in Taiwan and Japan and Wales and a bunch of other South America, but I don't have any that's specific to Stone.
I've got a shit ton of articles bookmarked, and some of them I can't access unless I can log in under an institution. And I thought, well, that just sucks, because I'm not a student. I'm not at a university, and I can't get access to them. without paying.
Yeah,
And
but that's why I can't comment on what you
no, that's
guys are
cool.
talking
Listen,
about
you can
because-
just the fact that you were able to, that you asked, had us all stop and explain this, because there's people watching right now, and maybe in the beginning we didn't outline that, which we didn't. So we hadn't even gotten there yet. But
yeah, because I invited lots of friends of mine from Asia.
excellent.
But of course, they don't have any clue what is a stone femme and a stone butch. We don't
Okay.
have those words in Asia.
It's a good
We
point.
just have femme, dyke, butch. That's it. So,
And I don't know what happened to Norma, but one of the things that I actually had an interview with Norma, and Zoom blew out my recording, so we're going to redo it. But it was interesting to talk with Norma about identity and things like that in South Africa. Some people don't realize this, but that is South Africa is the #2 country as far as membership in our main group. Right behind the United States is South Africa, and then Canada. There's over 1,000 members from South Africa in the main group that make up the membership. And when I vet the profiles, I was interested very much so in the fact that Butch Femme, for some of the younger folks out there, has a shift. It's got some of them were displaying themselves outwardly and expressing themselves in a more fluid way on the butch and the femme side. And I found that that one dynamic in one person, you had two dynamics in one person. I found that to be intriguing. So that was one of the things that I had asked her about, and stone identity as well. And I believe that some of the assumptions we make when we have conversations in the group is that, everybody's using the same terms and language, and we can forget easily that we have an international group. So yeah.
can I ask a question? Because also, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, because also for Mary, my girlfriend, and she's Finnish and she's dyke, but she never heard the word dyke until I got together with her. And I told her, oh yeah, I like you because you're so dyke like that. You're sporty dyke. I like that. But in Finland, it doesn't even exist. They don't even have the femme and dyke words.
Wow.
They are just gay. Like, there's no word for it. So which was really weird for me, which is still weird for me. But maybe it's something that I think all of you are from America, right? Right?
Except, well, Lily, Norma is South Africa. Victoria, are you in Canada?
No.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I thought
Because
you were in
it's
Canada.
very, I think it's very different, the country that you come
is.
from. Because I don't
There she
understand,
is.
like, what you guys are talking about. Like, there's so many things that I don't get.
Can I just ask, what would you, how do you say your name? Sharmini?
Charm.
What would you call if you had a butch lover who didn't want you to reciprocate to them sexually? They don't want you to touch them.
I would say that's my perfect girlfriend.
Well, that's what a stone butch is.
Oh yeah, I like that.
Yeah, well, that's pretty. There's a whole bunch of different ways we do that, but that's kind of in a package, a real short description of
Yes.
Me. I don't want to be touched there, or especially there.
Yeah.
But you can touch me anywhere else. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's why I like the long nails, and we won't go into that, but that with the back and the whole thing.
Yes.
But
I understand.
Yeah, it's just that's what. And then a stone femme, and this again, a short way to put it, is someone who understands that and wants that type of butch interaction.
Okay, I understand you because I've had girlfriends like that, and
Thank you,
one of
Marti.
them is a man now. I mean, she's like transgendering,
Right.
and yeah. So I've had girlfriends like that that don't touch my titties or my pussy. I will do you, you don't do me. Which for me is like the perfect girlfriend. It's what I prayed for all my life.
Right, and and that's, I mean, like I said, what I said was just a real short version. Victoria, if you read her books, goes into it. There's a lot more to us than just that. But that's the short version of the definition of what we are.
But thank you, because now I kind of understand what you're talking about. Like, yeah.
Right.
There's
I'm glad it can help. Yeah. We are under the umbrella, the LGBTQI XYZ.
the rainbow canopy.
We are under that umbrella. So we're just a really small part of it. But I think there's more of us than knows that, that they are. They don't have a word for it, like you were saying.
There's a series that came on called Work in Progress with I'm a big fan of Abby, and it has a lot of identities within this show that had me just verklempt. I was like, oh, my people, this is my people. Finally, proper representation of folks in our community, and there was a scene in there where Abby was dating Chris, a young trans man, and Chris was texting Abby, who was in the back seat, so that the person, their Uber driver, didn't hear it, what their limitations and boundaries were, because they were going home to get busy, and it was, and Abby's sitting there reading it, going, oh, okay, and it was like that was their negotiating point, and so for anybody who would like to answer this one that's stone identified, do your verbalizing of your boundaries with potential love connections. This is something that kind of, there is no wait and see until everybody drops their clothes. There is kind of a prerequisite that says this needs to be on the table, and talked about ahead of time. And has that ever gotten, I mean, you're getting along with somebody, you're talking, you're vibing with somebody, and then you verbalize your boundaries, and they bounce. Mm-hmm. Have you ever lost a potential love interest because of your stone identity?
I've been the one who's bounced.
Okay.
The date where we were on a newer Butch Femme site that tried to get up and rolling, and one of the first things they said was, I'm a butch in the streets and a femme in the sheets, and I was just like, and that's okay. That's okay. Their preference is okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but it was not going to work for me. Or a woman I'd been crushing on who I completely misunderstood. This is before I figured out I was actually stoned, but I was back at their house and they were like, I don't get into all that gender stuff. And I don't remember what else they said, but I was just like, I don't think this is going to work.
Right.
And it didn't feel congruent or true to me to go any farther at that point, because that seems awfully cruel, right? To use someone in that fashion to go, well, is this going to work or not? And it's like, this is already not sounding all that great. So I've been the one who has bounced.
And I'd like to bring up to everybody who's listening that, butches who do accept penetration doesn't make them femme. That it's wherever your ozone is. Okay, could be an innie, could be an outie, doesn't matter. Okay, you're a human being. You're experiencing sexual arousal. You're going to get it. However, it does not change your identity if you take penetration. And I want to make sure that folks do not try to parallel the yays and nays of penetration to identity.
Mm-hmm. My apologies if I said something.
No. I just wanted to make sure
that I am not. I don't.
Me. I got a wide lens. I listen for as if I've got a lot of folks listening. I'm listening for people, and if I hear something that might need a little bit of clarity, I'm going to throw it in there. And it's a damn shame that the butch who said I'm a femme in the sheets might have been doing it simply because they were told that's a femme thing, because they take penetration. That's just sad.
Yeah, yeah,
and yeah. I've got that on our list too.
I will, if I may, I just wanted to say that I've had those experiences too, Leann. But also, I've had a lot of debate from people who identify as lesbian butch or female of center butches. And they come at me asking me, why don't I date them? Why am I, why do I have to be a stone? They're just as good. And I'm like, I don't doubt that you are, it's just a preference. Well, maybe you should try me, it's kind of like that icky, male thing that, well, you ain't had me yet, baby, You
haven't had me yet. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I get that a lot, and it's offensive to me personally as a stone femme. Like, why would you even ask me to do that, to consider this? It's not that I'm trying to rule anybody out. It's simply that I want to make sure that my boundaries are also being respected. And when you do that to me, I don't feel respected at all, not even a little bit. So.
Yep.
Hey, Daywalker, can I address something that you asked earlier?
Yes.
So I'm going to just lean in because it's a tender topic for some of us, especially I can speak for myself. And my response is not speaking for all stones. I'm going to just say from my experience. Your question was, are there ever any times, it's a little tender, are there ever any times that we relax or change our boundaries for our partners? And the question is hard for us to address because we have had to work so hard to be heard on our boundaries, even to ourselves. Like, we do things for years not knowing it's not organic to us because it's expected, it's lesbian, it's the way it should be. You should do reciprocity, like all that socialization. Like, when most of us came out, there was not space for femmes, especially, who are pleasers socially, or caretakers socially. There wasn't ever, no one said when we were young, hey, when you get to a point where you feel uncomfortable, it's okay to say no. And if they walk, it's really okay. Like, it's really okay. We don't get those messages. What we get is, we need to look at compromise. We need to make space for the other person. We need to really hear them. We need to be present to what they need as well as what we need. Like, those are ways of diluting our truths to ourselves. So having our truth is really hard won for most stones. Like, and when we get to the place where we are brave enough to say it out loud. Like, I remember I was dating a butch in the very, very early 90s, like maybe 91 or 92. And we stayed friends even after we broke up. And we were friends 12 years later. And I tried to come out to her and say, hey, would you think I was selfish or greedy if I told you that I was stoned? And she goes, hell yeah, because she's a butch bottom sexually. That doesn't work for her. So it would be greedy and selfish to her. But it just shut me down. It felt shaming. It wasn't, even though we were good friends, she didn't say, wow, that's fascinating. Have you evolved from where I knew you before? Or like, there was no space for me. So I kind of wilted inside. So yes, to the question, there are times that if I was partnered to a butch that had never been free to explore their body and what worked or what didn't, and they wanted to see in very small ways on very rare occasions what that looked like, in the intimate partnership with somebody where you're really present and you want them to be fully self-expressed, they may develop into a femme at some point. They may develop into a full sexual bottom, but you have to give that other person permission to be who they are and what they need. So maybe we would do sacred work and help them explore that. Maybe we wouldn't, and we would help them find another vehicle for it. like another partner or something.
Yeah.
So those conversations do happen, but we work so hard to say, this is who I am and this is what I need. Like my boundaries haven't gotten less over time. They've gotten more refined and smaller and more specific. Like there's a phrase now, touch them nots, like for femmes. Like some of us don't go under the strap ever. And that has to be okay. Not most, that's a bad word. There's a lot of stone butches, or there's a lot of butches when they're talking to a stone femme that will say, yeah, I'm stone butch. I'm the butchest that there is. And that's their definition. Like their definition is I'm very—
They think it's hard. They complain it's hard, like a rock stone. Yeah.
Right. And there's a piece of that is true, but there's more to it. And if you take it at face value, like in the early days of being out as a stone femme, I would meet butches who would say, yeah, I'm stone butch. And then we'd get to intimacies and they'd be shoving my face down between their legs. Like,
right.
Whoa,
Yeah.
what a minute happened. And their needs are okay. They're just not a match for a touch them not femme. And, and a touch them not doesn't mean they don't touch them, don't pleasure them, don't make their orgasms primary. It just means they have limits on how they touch another human's body that supports their sense of themselves. Because for us, there's this psychology of we don't see, like a butch stands naked in my periphery vision. I'm not seeing their chest. I'm not seeing that there's not a biological thing dangling between their legs. I actually see them the way they want to be seen. And I don't focus in on the specifics that make that dysphoric for me. Not just for them, but for me. I like the full experience of their masculinity. Like just as full as it can be. That we can talk about making me pregnant. We can talk about a lot of things in our intimate encounters, but I'm not ever gonna go, bring that womanly body over here and let me cup your breasts. That's not gonna happen because that's so far outside my range of comfort. It distorts my way of experiencing them as masculine.
It's interesting that you describe that as a form of dysphoria.
Yeah, for me, like as a femme, it's dysphoria.
Vanessa?
Oh, thank you, because I really need to say something here. I've been out since 1998, 99, and I have to say it used to be on the website, you know, it would explain everything. And so when we talk about stone butches, I don't know who here is getting the idea that it has to do with the look, it has to do with the personality, because stone is specifically speaking about sex. It's not, and touching. It's not talking about how you look, because butch is butch. But, you know, I mean, when you talk about the boundaries that you were just talking about, you're talking about your stone femme boundaries, because I'm okay going down on a stone butch. An orgasm coming from oral copulation is awesome. And I know many stone butches who love getting head. So I want to make sure that you're not speaking out for all of stone femmes, because I'm a sex positive stone femme. I don't like anybody going down on me unless I'm really, really comfortable. It's something that happened as a child. So, you know, because of abuse, I find is a lot of the reasons that there's a boundary. And I know for me specifically, it is a boundary based on a tragedy in my life. And so I just want to bring back that not all stone femmes are uncomfortable with sex. It has to do with different types of touch. And like you, someone said, I think it was Darling said, very specific over time that, you know, I'm not sure if it was you or not, but I think so. But very specific and refining and knowing exactly what you're talking about. And I mean, I am very specific down to inches within my cooch, you know, so I just want to say that these things are sexual. When you speak about stone, you're speaking
absolutely, absolutely. And that was one of the things I said a little bit ago, was that some of the things I found that were misconceptions were right there in our own community, where somebody was trying to be helpful on a thread where somebody asked what stone is. And this was why we had that panel a couple years ago. And I watched the answer, and somebody come in, they were being helpful, and they were like, yeah, it just means the opposite of a soft butch. And I'm like, oh, no, we need to stop that. because that's misinformation, and there's thousands of people there who are there to get the right information. And if I may, I also spotted there was a statement of position, a position of opinion that was taken from the main group that I saw. But boy, I tell you, it got straightened out. That stone folks are lacking therapy, that the identity reveals unresolved trauma and abuse and internalized misogyny and the inability to exercise self-love of body as a female, and closeted trans, and they're told to seek psychiatric help. And can I just say that how is exercising physical, intimate boundaries not self-love?
I agree. I have my boundary and it's not changing. And unless they come up with a whirly bird that looks like a sparkly unicorn head, I'm not going to ever pack or penetrate either. And if a butch wears a soft pack or a hard pack or fucks with you that way, that doesn't mean that she's stone or that's all she'll do or whatever, you know.
Right.
Sometimes that's hot.
And it's again one of the most interesting and unique things about this, and I'm going to hand it to Norma, is the intricacies behind each person's own stone identity. And Norma, you had your hand. Norma had your hand raised.
Yes, that's right.
That's all.
Can I go on now?
Yeah, go for it.
Thank you. So I'm not sure. First of all, sorry that I left. I'm back. I had a little bit of a technical error. So I'm not sure if you guys have mentioned this, but my stone identity, I want to say the stone dance, that is the relationship I kind of fall into in my stone identity, is the boundaries are so much deeper and more than just in the intimacy part. There's a lot more to do with what I prefer, how I prefer to be treated, and what kind of, it almost always gets misinterpreted with traditional gender roles, which is the complete opposite of that. I mean, I require chivalry. I require an understanding of the line between my extreme femininity and the masculinity that matches me. For example, in my relationship, well, I'm happily engaged with an amazing stone butch. So in my relationship, the way that I'm treated, I'm able to flourish as a complete lady because, like I said, I've always considered myself high femme until stone femme showed up, and I felt like I could relate because it also matches my boundaries in my intimate life. However, I would love to have my car door opened. I'd love to, you know, those kind of little things that a normal, or well, normal is not the word, for lack of a better word. I think is, you know, like yeah. A lot of relationships in our community, you know, everybody does their own thing because they don't want to conform to the traditional gender norms, gender roles, and all that. And I feel like for me, if I'm able to match with stone butch, I'm able to kind of to understand even further as we go deeper into like more boundaries. And so my stone compatibility is bonded in stronger, I want to say all round boundaries, as much as it is I have my own boundaries in the intimate life. So why I'm bringing this up is because before my relationship now, like dating has always been crazy. You know, when you're stone, you constantly have to come out, you constantly have to explain what it is and, you know, what you prefer. And when I brought that outside of, they'll be like, okay, I understand those sexual boundaries. Okay, we can work this out. But when I describe how I like to be treated, you know, the aftercare, that whole, I want the whole total package, and that is okay because it's my identity as a stone femme, as a girly girl, you know, as a lady, and it's a big part of my identity. That is why I'm attracted to extreme, like I'd say masculine of center stone birch that has the whole old fashioned, old school approach or identity as well. So there is, I just want to break the stereotype that the stone boundaries only end in the intimacy section. You know, I set myself apart from that to say there is a lot more not usually spoken about, very silent understanding. Sometimes we don't even have to speak about it. And it's almost like the Butch Femme dance. It's the stone dance.
A wavelength, right? It's a wavelength.
Yeah, exactly. A frequency that is that compatibility of stones is so important, further than just the boundaries. So it's more boundaries plus the compatibility that makes the stone a stone. Well, for me,
makes the stone engaged is what it did. Right. Yeah.
I'm just so happy. I finally heard from Tracy Chapman herself. You remind me so much of Tracy Chapman, and I love Tracy Chapman.
I'm like, who invited her to the panel?
No, I was waiting for her to talk.
No, well, she had to exit out because she's way far away. You're in Brussels. She's in South Africa.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I gotta get a ticket.
That's
the song. I'm gonna buy my ticket. I'm gonna fly right.
Oh yeah. Marty's face is frozen down there. that's a. Oh, there you are.
There he is.
So
she's back. He's back.
So it was. I don't like to give them 1 inch of our space or 1 moment of our time, but the person who went on and on about stone identity being people who just haven't been to therapy yet. They were an anti-trans. They were coming right out of turf territory with this narrative and the bullshit behind it. And one of the things was, well, you just have to learn to love your body. Well, again, you love your body enough to be in tune with it and know it. You know how it does and does not want to be treated.
Well,
you know that your search from there is going to be to find somebody who understands that, embraces it, and catches your wavelength. You know, you got a vibe. You know, and it's the finding of somebody who gets along with each person's intricacies behind their identity can be more difficult, I think, sometimes for somebody who identifies as a stone femme who has their own boundaries, as it would be for a stone butch or MLC person to find somebody who is okay with, you know, not needing to do traditional touch and intimacy related with gayness. You know, I think I'm not saying one has it harder than the other, but I can say that the dating pool shrinks. Am I right?
Yeah. Is it okay if I say something related to this? I have like
yes,
a
please.
ton of passion related.
Oh, your
to
little hands
whole...
up. I just saw it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
Your hands
okay.
up. Go for it. I didn't see it.
So not so long ago, if you were homosexual, you were part of the DSM-5, the American Psychiatric Association's diagnostic manual, as mentally ill.
What?
Being transgender.
Yes.
Yes. Here in the US, that was considered a mental illness not so long ago. And so when I hear this language of pathologizing, and sometimes I hear it from folks in our own community, I just like to point that out and go, do you remember that not so long ago, in the 50s and 60s even, you might have been institutionalized against your will. And there are still children today who are being institutionalized against their will.
That's right.
Because they are not straight. Or they may not identify within the binary of genders. And so And yes, some of us have owies. I have some owies in my background, and some of those things I prefer to think now of, these are my preferences. I'm not going to apologize for them anymore. I'm old enough now. I'm 53. I'm not going to apologize for this stuff. I've done a ton of work on it. And I live with PTSD. Some of these things are my preferences, and that's okay. Because I'm looking for someone who I am a complement to, who I can be a partner to. I am not looking for someone to bend to me to do only what I want so that I can be this super selfish person. That's not it. But by the same token, I also, when I see people talking about, and this, I'm going to keep harping on this, you know, oh, butches have dysphoria, or they've, you know, clearly got abuse issues or things like that. That gets leveled at those who are masculine of center just as much. And quite frankly, we're who we are. And the second we can step out of that pathologizing, which is very difficult because it is so present everywhere, but the sooner we can give each other language, the sooner we can give younger people the language to talk about this, the better for all of us. And I'm going to get off my soapbox now.
I actually had my my doctor remove when I saw something on my chart on a glance, and it was gender dysphoria, and I said, first of all, it was the outdated term or something, and I said, but second of all, I want that removed off my shit. And I explained to them that, you know, as in somebody who's agender, you know, I have an AFAB body. I'm assigned female at birth, whatever. Okay. But I'm coming at the world as an other gendered person, not transgender. And that I wanted that removed because in my opinion, it's not me who would have the dysphoria. It's the world about me, the world around me that has the dysphoria. They cannot deal with what naturally occurs in our species, which is variation in gender. And it has nothing to do with who I'm sleeping with. It's not who you go to bed with, it's who you go to bed as. That's your identity. And he took it right the hell off my chart. And I gave him a copy of the book, Challenging Genders, that I co-authored with Michael. It was, I watched him actually take in every single word I said. And he nodded his way all the way through it. And he said, done. And he took it off. Because I said, well, you know, because you can't just throw me into transgender because, you know, I'm on low dose T because, you know, I'm a hippie and I just wanted a beard I could walk on. You know? So, you know, but I as somebody who, when I was very, very young, you know, was told to stand in one of these lines, and I just stood next to the teacher, and she's looking at me going, what are you waiting for? I said, I'm waiting for my line, because the girls' line and the boys' line, neither of those was mine, and I'm in second grade, you know, and it took me into almost 50 to find the word agender. But I knew it, and I stood by my guns the whole time. But thanks to the Pilgrims, we've got a lot of work to undo with generations of work to undo with the binary and the harm that it's done, and the you know, act like a man, sit like a lady, and pink is for girls and blue bullshit, you know, just bullshit. And so we have a lot of tools in our hands to use now. And what we just need, we need the audience to be open to hearing what existed way before their 7 generations down, and this is a natural form amongst humans, and that there are folks across the world today that. They feel like if they do not celebrate all 5 genders within they will not achieve perfect harmony in their society if they do not embrace and celebrate all the genders amongst them. And while these folks, you know, might not have a whole lot of technology around them, and you know, they're living in a place where they would film the show Naked and Afraid, you know, they are worlds ahead of us as far as knowledge on all things gender. And we are embarrassingly behind here in the US getting folks to understand that it doesn't have anything to do with your assignment at birth for your sex. It has to do, it comes from the brain, not the body.
Mhm.
And so while we're trying to teach the world that, we're also inside of our own community trying to teach our own people, because we do have quite the diversity in this community. It has evolved to just embrace a whole lot of identities that there was no room for before, or names for, or and pulling us all together means, you know, we're all going to come to the table with a different plate. We don't have matching silverware. Because of that, to break bread together, we got to have these conversations amongst our own community, in and outside of the community. Getting folks to understand the intricacies of this identity was important, because I watched the feed for 13 years now, and I've seen so many times, I've seen this particular identity get steered way off track, you know, and get misconceptions out there, and misinformation, and you know, I'll do this panel as many times as it takes to get as many Stone people as we can on the screen to explain what Stone means to them individually. And it was just important that this got worked through within our community, because we got folks that want to walk into the room and they want to be accepted in all their glory, and then they turn around and side-eye others, and then that's not okay. But they're doing it mostly from a place of I won't say ignorance, I would just say lack of information, lack of panels to discuss what it's about. Because I'll be damned if during that one thread we had almost 1,000 comments in that one thread a couple years ago. I saw several people come through that thread verklempt because they said, oh my God, I've just found the name to my identity. I just found the term to me. And this might have been somebody who was one of those poo-pooers. Oh, all these labels, we don't need all these labels. And then they find it, and then and they can't. That's it. They're solid from there, and from there on out, they then it's easier to understand why identities in terms of language are so important to many of us who worked very hard to find them. So let's have a free-for-all. Who's got nobody's got their hands up. Who's got a thought that just popped in their head that they want to take to the screen and say something about Stone identity that you feel like you want the audience to hear?
I do.
Go for it.
I know that there's a lot of different experiences on the panel, so I don't want to diminish somebody who has a different experience than I do. As an organizer in the Butch Femme community for over 20 years, and a large part of that for Stones, I would say it's been my experience that 80% of Stones are not Stone because of trauma. They've had trauma because of being Stone, but their stoneness is not from trauma. Like, I've known plenty, like there's even Stones now, like there was one person that approached me who is Stone Butch identified, but they were born male and went through transition, including full sexual reassignment to female, so that they could be Stone Butch. They knew that they were masculine center. They knew that they were, they loved femmes, but they also knew that the being assigned male at birth was not the version of masculinity that resonated with them. So they went through full transsexual process to then become a Stone Butch. So like, that's not based on trauma. That's based on a deep and deeply reflective sense of self. And Stone femmes that don't want to go under the strap are not, they're as sex positive as anybody. Sex positive just means non-shaming and everything's okay, but it might not be everything's okay with me. I might have this much of a range I'll do, but I support this range. Like, that's okay too. So just, I want to make sure that no one walks away with an understanding that Stone Butch means they're through trauma. or Stone Femme got there through trauma.
That's an interesting way to say it. I'm glad you said that, because I've actually had conversations with people that the trauma that they speak of was after finding that stone is their identity. There's a name for it, and the behaviors and the mocking and whatnot from general social media that they receive once they've done the work and embrace themselves and love themselves. You know, they're just like a lot of things. Somebody's got to come down on them. And you know, with all of the social media platforms out there, leaders like yourself, Victoria, and a couple others, you find it difficult to, because everybody's spread so thin throughout them. Do you find it more difficult to gather for universal causes within the identity? There's winds of change, there's support and outreach. Just, you know, do you find it more difficult because of this? Do you think that it is a lot of it is due to it? So many social media platforms out there separated, because it used to be a lot of us would hang out in one or two areas on the web, and I find our own community is spread out very, very far. And do you think the nature of this? I don't know. Do we think it's differences of opinions? Do you think it's are there some personal conflicts between leaders of the Stone community in different areas, and is this causing a divide that is maybe possibly keeping one full, well-oiled unit to move forward?
Kind of the way I see it is that the chat rooms of old days came after the bar scene, and Facebook groups and platforms now take the place of chat rooms. And I think of Facebook groups and I think of platforms like the TikTok communities and the subsets of TikTok communities and Instagram and like Facebook Reels. I think that those are developing as a form of lesbian or dyke or queer bars. So I was in a town, I grew up as a baby femme in a town that had 3 lesbian bars, and you get different things at each bar. Like what I got over here is different than what I got over here. And these conversations were different than these, and these had different people than that were at these two.
Oh my God. So when that describes California, Southern California and Northern California, dykes are completely different worlds.
Yeah. So when I started the first Stone group in Facebook, and that's not about credit, because I couldn't have done that without all the other fabulous Stones that joined and participated. It wasn't me, it was us. But when some of those decided to start their own Stone groups, I was happy, and I gave links to everybody. And I said, the town has room for more than one bar, and you're going to get things over there you're not going to get here, and vice versa. Like the Stone for Stone group is even behind the scenes. We're talking about refocusing for new and outcoming Stones. Like what kind of resources can we create so that that becomes our focus rather than just an occasional place to throw them in, right? Like what can we bring?
That's awesome. That's exactly what I was kind of leading towards, is like, support and outreach for the general, you know?
Yeah, but to me, there's no value in competing with other Stone groups, because I sometimes need other Stone groups, or other Stones need other Stone groups, or some people don't jive with the people in this group and they'd rather be over there, or it's really okay. Like those splinters don't take away from any one of the parts of the whole. They just become like the equivalent of gay bars. Like, I'm glad the more we have, the more people are going to be reached.
Like our main group is a full spectrum group, and it's a fairly reserved feed, right? Right. But for those who are feeling one way one day and are feeling a little racy the next, in our recommended by the admins, I have lesbianists because they're pretty racy on their feed, you know? So I recommend them to our membership, because some people want different things, different days. And if you want something that looks more like the Waltons, that's our group. Don't laugh, Leann. But thank goodness though, because it turns out that Facebook is finally actually battening down the hatches on their actual policies and taking them serious. But so we got it way ahead of the game on that. But somebody did a misspelling, or they had an autocorrect, and their autocorrect changed Butch in their content, in their sentence, to bitch, and somebody went behind them and replied. They said bitch, LOL. Facebook came in, snagged it, and hit them with a violation for bullying and harassing. They didn't even, so yeah. We couldn't even say that on our group, but
Daywalker, you got a couple other hands up, just FYI. I think Leann's been up for a while, and then
Leann, I'm looking right at you, and it's that blue background.
Norma was up before me,
Norma.
and
Norma,
Marty, because I've already talked a couple times.
All right, Norma.
Thank you. So as someone that's really passionate about people's identity, it's something that's really, really close to my heart. Mainly because I grew up in a place where we only knew the heteronormative. So what I want someone that's watching or will watch the replay or newly discovering the stone world or just learning the terms that we've discussed here is that I feel it's really imperative that they know that there's no tailored version of stone. Stone is unique to each stone. Your boundaries are unique to you. And it's okay to understand yourself the way you are. You don't have to compromise to regulate yourself to a certain set of rules of stones. And there's zero pressure to, for example, let's say if I was in the dating world still and had to meet, okay, maybe it's unfair for me to use myself as an example. But like if you meet somebody, you're a stone femme, and you meet a stone butch that has stone identities, but their boundaries don't match your stone boundaries. It happens, and it's absolutely okay, because not all stone butch folks, I'm going to say cock identified. Not all stone femmes have the same set of boundaries so I want somebody that is, listening or going to see this to understand that it's okay to be stone in a way that works for you and in a way that you understand.
Yeah, that's excellent. And people want to be the object of affection, not challenge. Leann, your little yellow hand is up.
Sure. And darn it, we just lost Marty because I was hoping Marty would go first. The other thing I wanted to say that has come up in this discussion that's been interesting is we've also been talking some about the kink community. And I can't speak for anyone else. I am relatively vanilla. And the thing that I have gotten out of this about you talked about the different groups, the different cohorts, the different populations. The thing that I have gotten from being able to participate in different groups and watch how people interact and talk about their lives is that it's challenging me to grow in my language about how I talk about myself, how I want to talk about my relationships. What does consent look like? What is the value of consent in other parts of my life and having those adult relationships? And so when we hear all of these terms brought out, there's something for everyone. There's a flavor for everyone. And I really appreciate it when people share. I may not understand or be right there alongside them within their preferences, but I learn so much. Sometimes we have these discussions about poly and I'm like, I could never do this, but I really admire how you guys talk. and that's been the exciting part about it. And if I was deeply invested in trying to dismiss one or someone else or you as somehow wrong, or that's, abhorrent, or that's unacceptable, I'm missing out on all that. And it's growing me as an adult. Poly friendships. I could do poly friendships, but
that's G, that's Minnesota, isn't it? Minnesota
okay.
G.
But I was thinking, when I came out in the Pacific Northwest in the US, it was not okay to be a femme. I had hair to my waist. I was considered suspect. And I got to travel to Hawaii to visit a friend there. And she basically said, everything here is butch femme. So if we're going to the bars, you got to figure out how you're going to dress. And I was kind of in heaven,
wow.
because that didn't exist where I was. And it is still not something that is really prevalent here. What I tend to see is it looks like there's a ton of, I don't know why there's so many stone butches in the South, which is someplace I never want to live. I'm sorry, all you folks in the South, but why aren't more of you here? That's all I want to know. Why aren't more of you here? Best Coast wants all of her children to come home. So that's all
I hit the South 5 years for my wife, and I brought her back here to California with me. And that was in 2009. She's I was a cultural shock to them, I think. So, but met some good folks. Not everybody there is red, but there's definitely differences in our everyday experiences from there to here. Where did Marty go?
Oh, he had to leave. He had another engagement apparently.
Okay.
I wanted to say that I'm from Texas. I am a Southern woman by default. And I do love me a wonderful, loving Southern butch. That said, yes, there are plenty of those here, but we don't always mesh because I'm not that submissive Southern woman that they expect me to be from go. You have to earn that right. For me, being a stone femme is about respect. It's about consent. It's about consensual behaviors. It's about, that 100%. And as I know, Victoria said something about, what did you say? Something about being very specific or finding your, as you grow, you find your, my vocabulary escapes me. I'm sorry. You find your place, your niche, if you will, what you like, your likes and your dislikes. And I think that's very, I think that's beautiful. We all grow and we all learn and we move forward. We evolve into who we are supposed to be, who we are at our own center, not because we're not masculine, do we not have a center? We are feminine of center, and we are stone, and we are old school, and we are, sex positive, and we are just wild, kinky, and or not, we are variations of a beautiful, beautiful place in our hearts and in our society, our group, if you are subgroup of stones. And I feel like that's, I feel like it's getting smaller and smaller. And it's not because, I want it to continue to grow. It's just, I feel like it's important that we have these panels and discussions so we have a voice, that we give this particular subgroup a voice, so that people out there don't feel like they have to pick and choose just one or another, that you don't have to just be lesbian or butch or femme. You can be, a very specific femme or butch, and it's okay. And if you decide that doesn't fit, you can try something else, and that's the beauty of our life.
Yeah,
that's what I want to say.
Well, we've got transmasculine and genderqueer, and just all kinds of beautiful plates at the table, and each one of those identities all has their own, and when I see these descriptions and whatnot, and when I hear you guys use them, I mean, I know right away there was a lot of work put into that. There's a lot of introspect. You've taken the time to ask yourself things, and that's important, because we want to ask people this, ask people that, and when Alonda Lake has it's one of our members, and has a podcast, and where we've been discussing the why ask why, and if we're gonna ask why, we should be prepared to ask ourselves a lot of whys first, and I disclosed that I didn't turn my wide lens on myself a lot. I gave it to the community and didn't give myself the same benefit a lot. And that's something I've been working on changing. I mean, my big old list, you know, photo taker, peacemaker, you know, rainbow chaser. This is all the things that, you know, but as far as gender and sexuality, it took me years to find the words that were just perfect for me. You know, somebody tagged me as a soft butch because I have long hair, or because I'm a peaceful hippie, you know, and things like that. But it doesn't make me soft, you know, and I didn't like the term. It didn't fit. Lesbian sounded like something I needed to take antibiotics for. When I was a kid, I heard that, and I'm like, I don't think I could do that. Can I just be gay, super gay, hella gay? Yeah, and this was my own way of navigating to words that I was comfortable with saying out loud that belonged to me and pinning them to my shirt, you know. And Norma, I know that in South Africa, the Butch Femme community includes a lot of folks who share a fluidity between both identities in one person. Yes. And I find that super unique. And does South Africa have a average size stone community? You are going to embark on a lot of education out there. I know you are, because you're still a youngin', and I'm really, really super proud of what you're embarking on, especially in your country. And would you say that the community out there has a fairly large stone community, or folks who are just now learning about the term?
To be fair, I'll only speak of, you know, I won't speak for everybody, but the few people that I've you know, talked to in the last, let's say, 5 years, I've only rarely came across stone at least less than 5 times. And I won't say it's not there. It's just something that's not, I'm going to say known, because it's always a surprise. You know, when I bring it up, it's like, whoa, what is that? Is that like a touch me not? Is that like a pillow princess? Is that it? You know, it just jumps to all these terms that people have sort of stereotyped as negative for some terrible reason. And it's always, there is, I'm going to say lesbian culture, because that's what they call it here in my part of the world. And the reason why they call it that is because there's a large misconception that you either have to be butch, or you have to be femme, or you have to be in between, and nothing else. That's it. That's just how you are. And the most ludicrous thing is that the butch identity here carries so much, I'm going to say, toxic masculinity. The whole, you know, it comes with this particular self-made or self-infused dominance. And that is not just in the intimacy setting, but in general, in the way that they treat women, in the way that they like to be seen, in the way that they like to be, you know, just exist. And it comes with a infused as well femme submission, that because you are a girly girl, well, you're just a lesbian who happens to be a girly girl, therefore you are a femme. That's it. So you always have to conform to the two. And so what I'm trying to do, I've just written a book that just talks about the basics of identities. And from there, I'm going to build like a series, just getting deeper into it, because it's not part of our dialogue. It's not part of our language. And not just in South Africa, but I'm going to say in Africa in general, because it's so hard to exist already as a gay woman, as a queer person. And so to have to exist differently than the known, already existing gay woman that is now trying to find space. So it's hard to be say, okay, I'm Norma. I normally just say I'm queer.
Right.
And then, you know, to the people that I interact more with, I'll then elaborate or edify that and say, okay, I'm stone femme because of this and this, because I always have to explain. And I
it
find
must
it
be
okay
exhausting. Yes, because you know you've
it's
evolved
absolutely,
way ahead of your peers out there, and
absolute.
so yeah.
Absolute. So I'm gonna say that, you know, I'm gonna share this broadcast with my friends as well. Stone definitely exists. There's a lot of identities within the communities, not just the queer women or lesbian or like however people identify them. There's a lot of like deeper identities, and identities are more than just labels. These are people's, you know, lives. And so that's the biggest misconception here as well that I find out when you mention those terms. It's like, oh, it's just a label, or you label yourself this way because you don't want to do ABC. And so that is one of the stereotypes that I'm trying to break by bringing a lot of awareness and, you know, writing about stuff like that. And yeah, I'm trying to get my side of the world opened up to some of the things that you guys already sort of probably understand better. And I've had to learn as well. And not many people have had that chance or the will to actually go out there with an open mind to welcome all the knowledge that there is out there about, you know, people's identities.
And people have a tendency to be really dismissive to things they find tedious, you know, and you know, it's just quick and easy for people to go, you know, but me, Elise come out here. Elise, hi Elise, welcome back.
Hi.
Elise come out here and visited for a few days, and we sat at Kelly's table, and I'm looking across at her, and I said, do you know how much I'm enjoying having somebody to sit across the table with me and just talk about gender for an hour? You know, because there's not a lot of people that want to engage like that.
Mm-hmm.
And how much I appreciated the hell out of that. You know, everybody else is goofing around doing whatever, you know, and she, the shitty coffee, but at least was toe to toe there with me with these concerns and these issues and identity and just every, you know, yeah. I think I had to attribute most of my knowledge directly to our community. I've learned from the community.
Yeah.
And I thank every one of you guys for that, because, you know, I don't pick up a lot of books, you know, and I end up writing them. You guys have seen all my posts and shit get really long. It gets just as bad in hand. But I can't tell you guys how much I appreciate you coming on for this panel. I want to do another one, of course, in a few months. And I've got an entire list of panels I'd like to do. And I guess I can't stress enough the importance of it, to have folks from our own community sit and talk to one another about these things. Because we can have threads go on the feed, but they lack tone, body language. You get drive-by, you know, comments, people dropping, you know, derogatory shit and then just leaving the thread. You know, it gets interrupted, you know, and then now everybody's fighting in a sub reply over something that somebody drove by and said, you know, and it just takes away from some of the content. And so I think that was one of the reasons I was drawn to getting these panels together, because hearing, getting the voices and the faces that represent particular identities on screen, or particular situations, or particular careers. I want to do people who have chosen faith-based careers who are also the gay. I want to talk about you know, pride in police, some touchy things, and yeah. So I can't thank you guys enough. Did I just see?
Hey, Yeah, because I before I feel like you're about to end, and I just wanted to say one thing if we're closing before we close. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I had a really difficult experience this past week. I had been getting chatted up by this Butch who I didn't want to let my guard down, and I had a little something in the pit of my stomach saying, I don't know, but they kept coming back, and they kept on presenting themselves as someone that I could trust. Anyways, without getting into details about what actually happened, we hit an impasse, and what they went to in order to hurt me was my Stone and Ophos identity. And they made some comments like that. That part of me was the part that they went after, and they had said that that piece of me was annoying and irritating, and that being so about Ophos matter that there are rules, and that they don't want to have to live by my rules. And I was floored by it, because I never pursued them. And when they pursued me, I let them know that I'm very Ophos, and that I'm very Stone, and I'm not for everybody, they knew this for weeks. And as soon as they wanted to hurt me, that's where they went. That's what they hit. That's what they, instead of dealing with the issue,
right,
they went after my identity.
They went after that which your empowerment. They're trying to knock down your empowerment.
So it was really I didn't know it's open season on me is attacking who I am. So it's easy for people, I think, to attack. I don't know if anybody spoke on this while I was in my appointment, but how people go after our identities sometimes. I was in other threads in different groups, and one was a group where it was a stud group, but I was welcome, and I was happy to be there. And they went after me when somebody asked, when we were talking about identities, like they're like, oh, she just doesn't want to have to do any work. And I was like, that is not what Stone Femme is. And then there was another thread in another group where they explained to me how I wasn't really Stone Femme, that Stone Femmes, that they don't want to be touched. I'm like, no, that's not my from the Stone Femmes that I know. That's not how most of us are. Then they showed me, they took a screenshot of what is it called? Urban Dictionary, explaining to me that But
telling you all about yourself.
Mm-hmm. They're gonna tell you what it is to be a Stone Femme. I'm so sure.
No, that's not how most Stone Femmes. You're telling me that Urban Dictionary knows Stone Femme better than me. No. So, anyway, I just thought those are some things that I've been wanting to speak about, and had I not been pulled into an appointment earlier, I would have brought them up at a better time. I apologize for.
I think we've all been on the other end. Somebody, I have haters out there, believe it or not, and somebody said, Daywalker's just some confused dude. Really? Well, I don't feel that, but if that's a new label, I'm gonna decline. Because no. But it was interesting because I don't know the person, but their observance of me, did they just come out with that because they were just trying to be mean, and hateful, and I mean, it just rolled right off my shoulder. But it was interesting to hear a perspective from somebody I didn't even know. I'd never seen the name before in my life, and they went after my identity. And I had somebody go after it to the point where there was a time or two where I have stepped back and thought, am I am I hurting the community by hosting a Butch Femme community and identifying as Butch, but having a beard, a bearded Butch? You know, is this, you know, am I helping or hurting in a situation? You know, and I got to talk to people like Joe, you know, who I depend on to be my shoulder at times, and had to work through those things. You know, I had to do my own work, and I forgot to give myself the same advice I'd give somebody else, you know, but it came out in the end, you know, and I'm still here. So I'm on sabbatical, kind of, but yeah. I'll still be doing these during sabbatical though. Yeah. Elise, your hand is still up.
Sorry, take it down. It's on my screen. The record live button is covering up my hand, so I didn't really notice that it was still there. Okay, it's lowered.
Well, have we exhausted anybody yet?
I have one hand up. I have my hand up.
There you go.
Sorry, from the very clueless Malaysian. I just wanted to ask because I have a cousin of mine who was female, and then she was lesbian, kind of dykey, and then she became. But she did the operations and all that, which I really don't understand. But she did all that, and then she became a man, and then she got a girlfriend, and they're married now, which is great. But now that was when I was in Malaysia. Now I'm in Belgium, and I have met many like how you say, like the man who becomes a woman and the woman
transgender.
And I think it's really transgender people. We have a lot of friends who are transgender, and I've had like the man hitting on me, but it's a man who became the woman, and he's hitting on me, but it doesn't work for me because I will not fall for that. Like it's not my thing.
Yeah,
I mean, I like him. I like him a lot.
Right. Yeah, it's an issue. I think a lot of times in this particular community where folks get, you know, called transphobic because they're not into you know, the kind of intimacy if there's been if there's not been a full sexual reassignment surgery done on folks who are assigned male at birth. It's a hard limit. It's a tough one for folks who are just not drawn to that, you know, intimately. Intimately. And the understanding over there in our community is that trans women are present among us as community and family. And if they're in our dating groups, they're only there to date those who are open to dating them. And I hate to see them get talked about like they're not in the room. I hate to see them be reduced, their presence being reduced to their genitals, which is just people just got to stop doing that, you know. But don't ever let somebody try to bully you into dating them if you're not into it.
No.
So,
hold on.
But I've seen that happen too. That's a whole nother panel, actually. It's a whole nother panel. Yeah.
Okay. So I hope one day you will make a little chatty about this kind of thing, because
sure, I've been known to. I'm often in my messenger, chatting with people on things that they might have a question with, but might not feel comfortable putting it out there.
No, but it just really bugs me because I know these people and I really like them, like the woman who became the man and everything, and then they're falling for me. But I like dykes, like, and it's really weird because they're kind of woman but became a man, but I can't do that. And that's not the issue. It's just for me, it's like how difficult it must be for them to find someone because they can't.
Yes.
can't find a straight woman.
And you know, you should watch the panel that I have up. I don't know if you watched it. It's called "The L Men Among Us," the lost men among us.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's on the same YouTube channel, on my YouTube channel. And we've also got the preserving our identity against all odds, preserving our butch stud masculine of center identity within our own community.
Okay.
Because butches were often talked about or treated as though they're a stepping stone identity to becoming a man, and that's just ridiculous. So
yeah,
that's what that panel is about. So I've got a couple of panels already up. That got us. There's some good conversations in there. And
Daywalker, I don't mean to interrupt. I just want to check in real quick. We're at 2.5 hours, and I know you wanted to keep this.
Oh yes, thank you, Victoria, because I'm going to go.
Do you want to do any
gigs.
questions before we ring off?
Let me see. Well, let's see. Goodness, look, I have to scroll this little sucker down. All right,
Victoria, G. I love your wall.
G.
Oh, thanks. I'm at a friend's house.
Yeah. Who we got? So the host of panels was absolutely awesome being here. Okay, so somebody. Okay, going.
They may have been answered in the chat feed, so maybe just ask viewers to add in questions right now.
Yeah, attendees, you guys have any particular questions for the panelists? Go ahead and type it there into the chat.
Where is your wife? Is my question.
My wife has been napping since I met her almost 18 years ago. It's how she gets her beauty sleep.
Oh my God, we all have COVID here. The whole household has. We just caught it.
Well, you look alive and well for somebody with COVID. I can't. Ooh, I can't.
I know, right?
I have extremely low immune. I will not make it through that. And I had to.
No, we all got it. My kids and Mary, my girlfriend, and me, we've got it.
Oh, here we go.
Baby, we've got it.
I posted earlier to Victoria. You talked about emotional boundaries. Can you tell us more about that, Victoria?
Yeah, it's kind of a complex topic. I don't know if I can do it quickly, but there is a lot. Not all of our stones have an emotional distance. Emotionally stoned can look like they're just unwilling to really be vulnerable. Their vulnerability is nonverbal. Usually vulnerability shows up with when somebody's traumatized, like if somebody has been assaulted, they appear vulnerable. You can see their fragility on the surface. Those are visual tells. But when you're talking about emotional vulnerability inside of a normal relationship, we're not talking about trauma or, there was a hurricane and took my house and I'm feeling vulnerable. Emotional vulnerability is usually nonverbal. So the stone butch might come in and the tenseness of their body, the tone of their voice, something happened. Maybe it was in a public restroom or somebody that challenged their stoneness, and they don't really necessarily want to talk about it, but they want space held for them. They might hold it back because that emotional vulnerability is exacerbated by talking about it even more. Hold on, I've got a low power button. If they talked about it and used words to describe their experience, they may feel even more vulnerable in a way that makes them uncomfortable. So sometimes the stone femme can read or intuit that and just make space for it. In Stone Butch Blues, there's a situation, it's a fiction story, but it's based on real facts. And the butch had been assaulted after being arrested. So cops raped this butch before they let him out of jail the next day. And he came in and the femme could tell that something was going on. And the story goes that she gave him space to take off the first layer of shame on his own. So she ran him a bath and she put towels and but then left him alone to give him space to deal with that first level of it himself. And then she's there to talk about it or not talk about it, or completely distract him if that is helpful and more healing. But that emotional vulnerability is not something all of us want to correct. Like I have some emotional vulnerability around being pushed to do things beyond my boundaries after they were well negotiated. I tell this story sometimes about a butch I dated, Stone negotiated all that stuff. And 2 years into our relationship, I came home, the house is romantically lit. He said, I have a surprise for you. And I slipped to my feet, put my head in his lap. I was an executive at the time, and that was just me letting down my guard for the day. And I look up to see what he's saying, and he pulls open his men's smoking jacket, and under it, he's got a red bustier. Well, he's showing me his vulnerability. I already love him. We're already in a relationship. We already negotiated Stone, but I'm like, what do I do with this? Like, I'm a different woman now. Now I would say something different, but at the time I was still a baby femme, and it was like, you just love them where they're at. But I knew it was the beginning of the end for us, because if he had kept that hidden for 2 years, that's a minor version of catfishing, where he wasn't honest about who he was. And despite knowing my verbal boundaries, like stated, we've talked about it many times, that was a betrayal of trust for me. And I don't deserve to have it sprung on me like that, like where there's pressure and it's romantically lit and there's
shock value, like the shock value.
Yeah, I got through it, but going back, I'd be like, oh, let's talk about that. I would do it differently now. But there's an emotional vulnerability that comes with being authentically yourself. Mm-hmm. And part of mine as a Stone Femme, I do have some emotional reserve. I don't want to be disempowered in my life, but I'm often a tucked behind girl. So like, I can't do things that put me in a romantic headspace with a butch that's not my butch. Like, I just can't do it. So I keep some emotional distance. I keep some emotional distance with partners when I say, I'm not ready to talk about that right now. I want to go and maybe talk to my therapist or my girlfriend, or I want to work through this a little bit on my own and then come back more empowered to have a conversation. That's kind of what I'm talking about using Stone identity as an emotional thing. But you do it in healthy ways with good boundaries and great communication. You make sure you're loving with the other person, but it's still valid.
Excellent. Oh, I've lost my tab. I am. Way too many windows open. All right, so that was excellent. Thank you for explaining that. Here it is. All right. And can I explain that Stone emotional boundaries to my girlfriend? Thank you, Victoria. Definitely looking out for your book. Of course, I'll be interviewing you and talking about your book, and we're going to do the same with Norma as well.
Yeah, we want to know more about Norma's book too.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. I know. You know, we had such an epic interview, and we closed it out, and I went over and there was nothing in my recordings for Zoom. For a week they were trying to get it, and it was blown away. It was gone. And it was something about my plan having changed and my defaults not holding, I don't know what the hell, but they gave me a free webinar month, but that did not return the interview. So we're gonna redo the interview. I've still got the notes. So yeah, you're right. We are well past our time.
Just eating it lah. And get the cockroaches.
Who's talking? I can't make out what they're saying.
Me neither. I think it's Sharmini is losing losing the hemisphere. So we're gonna close out this panel, and it's gonna take a while on my slow ass laptop to get it from the cloud into here, and get to editing and do all that and get it up to YouTube. So in a hippie minute, which is a couple of days, right? Should take because it can sit for hours. If I touch my laptop while it's trying to do some of the uploading, it just freezes it. So yeah, I'll go play with
Hi,
paint.
everybody. It was great.
So
Thank you.
thank
Bye,
you, everybody.
everybody.
And we will do another one. I'll do a 2.0 in a few months. So we'll have some new fresh thoughts and some more faces. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on. All right. So I think I can click the end, and that's it.